I have a confession to make. I have never been a fan of baseball mascots. Okay, let me explain. I have nothing against the concept of mascots. In fact, I think that adding a giant, dancing, plush monster would automatically improve any social occasion by a factor of at least 30%. Birthday parties? Check. Weddings? Check. Funerals? Yeah. My problem isn't against mascots in general. My issue is with the current state of mascotdom in Major League Baseball as it exists today. For years, fans of MLB teams have been forced to sit there and take it as club after club introduces more and more bland, soulless mascots to dance the YMCA and fire lukewarm hot dogs at unsuspecting children. Of the 30 current Major League franchises, 27 have mascots. Of those 27, I count 2.5 that I wouldn't toss into a vat of boiling acid right this second in exchange for a Dodger dog. I mean, seriously, you're going to look me in the eye and tell me that your favorite part of going to a Minnesota Twins game is locking eyes with the nightmare-inducing stare of TC Bear? As I see it right now, mascots in Major League Baseball are suffering from a pair of distinct yet intertwined ailments. The first of these ailments, my esteemed viewer, is a severe lack of whimsy. Yes, we have mascots like Mr. Met who patrol Citi Field while engaging fans in a variety of activities, some family-friendly and some not so much. But for every Mr. Met, there are 5 Clarks. Yes, that's the real name of the real mascot for the Chicago Cubs, Clark. These are mascots who are so bland, so forgettable, that the only time I remember they exist occurs when they are staring me in the face with their vacant, lifeless, googly eyes. The second plight facing Major League mascots today is a crisis of originality. It's no secret that contemporary pop culture is suffering from a dearth of original ideas. In just the past few years, we've seen the release of the 9th Fast and Furious movie, the 11th Star Wars movie, and the 24th MCU movie, with no sign of slowing down. In a similar vein, MLB mascots have recently come down with a bad case of copycat syndrome. If an MLB team's mascot isn't an anthropomorphic representation of their animal namesake, a la Ace the Blue Jay or Billy the Marlin, it's a Philly fanatic ripoff. I'm looking at you, Blooper, you hideous pale Xerox. But the most depressing part of all of this isn't the mascot by committee blandness, or the half-hearted, haphazard imitation. What makes the current mascot crisis so disheartening is the fact that this problem was solved nearly 40 years ago, when the San Francisco Giants spawned what would soon become the most hated mascot in baseball history, the Crazy Crab. The San Francisco Giants of the early 80s didn't have a lot going on for them. They hadn't made a playoff appearance since 1971, with no hope of contention in sight by the time 1984 came around. To make matters worse, their home field of Candlestick Park was the ballpark equivalent of wearing a pair of wet socks, chilly, damp, and an altogether unpleasant experience for everyone involved. All of this posed a major challenge for Pat Gallagher, the head of marketing for the Giants. When asked to describe his job, Gallagher was known to put it simply: I was supposed to get butts in the seats any way possible. In an effort to get said butts in said seats, he was more than willing to concoct ever more ridiculous marketing schemes for the club. It was Gallagher who, spurred on by Candlestick Park's miserable reputation, introduced the Croix de Candlestick, a pin that would be given to any fan who stayed through the end of an extra inning night game. Emblazoned on the bottom were the words Veni Vidi Vixi. I came, I saw, I survived. Gallagher was also the one responsible for securing the sponsorship that resulted in the giant Coca-Cola bottle that sits behind the left field seats. But of all the brainchildren of Pat Gallagher, none elicited such a, shall we say, strong reaction from the fans as the now infamous Crazy Crab. It all started with a commercial.
They love it in Atlanta. Yeah, but Giants fans are different. Trust me. They'll love it.
All those fans in Giants land love that Crazy Crab. Ooh, love that Crazy Crab. Up by the bay, the folks all say, good. Love that Crazy Crab. Ooh, love that Crazy Crab.
When we asked Giants fans what kind of mascot they'd like, 63% said they didn't like mascots. Which once again proves that Giants fans are different.
Hey, Frank, need any pinch hitters?
I've told you, don't you ever touch me again.
Hey, get the hook!
But they love it in Pittsburgh.
I told you, Giants fans are different.
Ooh, love that Crazy Crab.
The Crazy Crab was created as a quote-unquote anti-mascot, a character that Giants fans would love to hate. It came at a time when MLB teams were debuting new mascots left and right, so naturally Pat Gallagher and the Giants had to put their own unique spin on it. As for the unfortunate soul who would have to be inside the costume, the team spared no expense. They hired actor Wayne Doba to play the crustacean. Doba, who was professionally trained as a dancer and a mime, knew exactly how to get a rise from an audience, and put those skills to use in raging Giants fans. Now initially, the Crazy Crab was meant as a one-and-done character, to be used only in commercials and the like. But then the marketing team got to thinking, if they had already gone through the trouble of creating this anti-mascot, why not try it out on some real live fans? From the very first game, it was clear that the Crazy Crab was, if not successful per se, at least having its intended effect. By the time it stepped foot, or claw, on the field, the extent of fans' loathing was palpable. The boos echoed throughout Candlestick Park, and a deluge of hot dogs rained down from above upon the unsuspecting arthropod. And while the idea that the Crazy Crab would be hated wasn't surprising, that was the entire point of its existence after all. The length to which fans would go in order to express their displeasure shocked even the most cynical of marketing executives. Golf balls zipped by its face, beer bottles sailed across the field, and batteries were flung from the upper deck. Opposing players got in on the action too, throwing rosin bags at the poor creature from the dugout. What certainly did not help was the increasingly obvious fact that in 1984, the Giants weren't just bad, they were the worst team the club had put out since the franchise moved to San Francisco in 1958. As a result, those fans who were able to drag themselves to the ballpark needed something, anything, to distract them from the catastrophe that was occurring on the field. And if that took the form of abusing a 6-foot-tall crab, then so be it. By the middle of the season, the punishment had become so severe that the Giants were forced to reinforce the costume with fiberglass in order to protect Doba inside, and it almost worked. As the Giants reached the final stage of the season, they came up against the first-place San Diego Padres at home. Between innings, the Crazy Crab took its spot on the field, irritating the crowd with its usual flair in what would be the final home series of the year. Then, out of nowhere, 2 Padres players blindsided the shellfish, slamming it to the ground with the level of force you would expect out of a pair of 200-pound professional athletes. Wayne Doba was injured and sidelined for the rest of the season, eventually settling out of court with the Padres in 1985 for $2,000. As for the identities of these assailants, it remained a mystery until 2015, when former Padre Kurt Bevacqua revealed that he had always possessed a lifelong hatred for crabs, as did his teammate and future Giants manager, Bruce Bochy. The Crazy Crab was retired after the 1984 season out of concern for its own safety. The San Francisco Giants would go mascotless for 12 years, until the 1996 debut of Lou Seal. Unlike the Crazy Crab, Lou was a much more traditional, friendlier face for the franchise, and is still around today. But at the same time, I still can't help feeling like something was lost. Baseball, for all its faults, is one of the last bastions of camp in American sports. Many fans, writers, and players tend to treat the sport in a serious, solemn manner. And while there are moments when a degree of gravity is needed, the truth is that we are on the verge of losing part of what, in my opinion, makes baseball so great. Its silliness. Baseball is an objectively ridiculous activity. A group of grown men dress up in pajamas and try to hit a ball with a stick for 3 hours. Its most famous song is about peanuts and Cracker Jacks, for crying out loud. So why then can't we have a little more fun with it? Minor League Baseball has the right idea. With between-inning races, endless promotional giveaways, and a little bit of charm, Minor League and Indie Ball have been able to curate a unique, fun experience unlike that found at the Major League level, and they're better off for it. I mean, could you imagine an MLB team doing some of the stunts the Savannah Bananas have pulled? What the 1984 Giants did with the Crazy Crab was an example of a team unashamed to embrace the silly side of baseball, and it's a shame they gave up on it so soon. Now, I'm not saying that the San Francisco Giants should scrap Lou Seal and bring back the Crazy Crab in its place, but let's be honest. If it came down to a one-on-one grudge match between the two, I'd take the crustacean in a heartbeat.
I love that Crazy Crab. Its dance moves were legit.
I suddenly got this urge to boo and throw hot dogs. At least my neck is warm.
Love that Crazy Crab.
It's stupid.